Hello, and welcome to the Autism in Black podcast. I am your host, Maria Davis-Pierre, licensed mental health counselor and the CEO and founder of Autism in Black, Inc. Today's guest is Gloria Jackson-Nefertiti. She is an author, speaker, and powerful voice in the neurodivergent and queer communities. Gloria was diagnosed as autistic just 6 months before turning 63 and has since become a vibrant advocate for late diagnosed adults, especially Black women navigating multiple intersections of identity. Enjoy today's episode with Gloria. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. I am super excited for this conversation that we are about to have. I know that there are many of you who are going to benefit from it. So with that being said, Miss Gloria, welcome to the Autism in Black podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was looking forward to this for a while, so.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here. Your story is incredibly powerful. Diagnosed just before turning 63.
Yes.
And and living fully and freely now, which I'm always about that.
Yes.
But can you start by sharing how your diagnosis changed the way you see your past and your identity and kind of that process of getting diagnosed at 63?
Yes. Well, first of all, the person who diagnosed me was my therapist, who I'd been seeing actually for more than a decade. And she had seen me over the years, just go through these, when I would share, just different things about my life and, just the frustrations that I was having, in my relationships and at work and just all of that. And she actually assesses people for autism. And so after a while, she got to thinking about, just the different ways that I responded to situations and, just how my brain seemed to work, that was so different from everybody around me. And so she asked if I'd be interested in being assessed for autism. And I said, yes, that would be great. Yeah. And it was a really long process, but it was definitely worth it, and I wasn't at all surprised to find out that I was on the autism spectrum,
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So it, it basically just confirmed, I guess, what I already knew. And after receiving the diagnosis, I mean, I just felt like everything finally made sense for me. I couldn't understand why I didn't respond the same way that people around me did, or I also couldn't understand why I didn't understand certain types of jokes, like I love puns, but I don't like visual puns as well, because I'll find that I'll be looking at it or looking at some meme and everybody on social media, on Facebook or whatever, will be, sending up all of these laughter emojis and I'll finally have to say, okay, what am I looking at and why is this funny? And that reminds me of something else that changed for me as a result of getting the diagnosis, and that is, it used to be whenever I couldn't understand a joke, or if it just go over my head, I would feel like I was stupid, like I just wasn't too bright, because I mean everybody else understood, so. Yeah, and now I'm, just a lot more honest about, coming right out and saying, well, I'm autistic, so so I don't really tend to get, that kind of humor, Yeah. But something else that happened as a result of the diagnosis is that even though I was so relieved to finally understand myself, yet at the same time, I felt a little bitter, I guess,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because, I mean, I wish that I had known way earlier,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially when people were, frequently asking me, why do you act the way you do? And
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Because
yeah,
so, I got my diagnosis at 37, so still late
okay,
diagnosis
sure.
as well. And it was for me, I know that I still have my ebbs and flows of like going through the process. And I'm 41 now. So
Mm.
what, 37, 41, do the math. I can't at this time, but it's been years since getting it. And I'm
Right.
still kind of processing and, going through those ebbs and the flows. And when you're getting at 63, that's a totally different generation, right? Because I know how
Yes.
my parents kind of reacted to my diagnosis. I know how my parents are from a small town in Alabama, and you are
Oh
from
gosh.
Mississippi. So I know
Mm-hmm.
that growing up in Mississippi, and like you said, constantly being asked, why do you act that way by, peers or teachers or family? Like
Yes.
looking back at that experience, how do you make sense of that now and processing that at 63?
Oh boy. Well, part of it is, the fact that I was born in 1956, in Mississippi, in a predominantly black area, and there just wasn't very much known about autism. I mean, it's like I hardly even heard the word, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and we had no idea what it meant or what it was. So it never occurred to me at that time that I was possibly autistic. But as I look back on certain things, like for instance, I learned to read when I was 2, and that was what my mother told me, that I had rheumatic fever when I was a toddler. Yeah, and then when I recovered, then I started reading, and I mean, I don't remember ever learning how to read, because as long as I can remember, I've always been able to read, you know. And as I look back now, I'm thinking, well, that's probably one of the signs that I
Mhm.
was autistic,
Hyperlexia is the term for that, hyperlexia. So
hyperlexia. Oh, okay,
yes, my
okay,
daughter is hyperlexic as well. She just at around 2 just started reading. She wasn't even verbally talking to us at that time, but she
really?
started reading to us. Yeah, she started
Wow.
reading to us, and that's how
Oh my
we would
gosh.
hear her voice and things of that nature. That's how she would communicate with us.
Wow, interesting. Well, I
Mhm.
was definitely verbal, but it was like, well, especially in grade school. I mean, ever since the first grade, it was like no matter what I would say, the kids would just look at each other, and they would be quiet for a while, and then everybody would just burst out laughing. I mean, it was like, yeah, no matter what I said or did,
Mhm.
that they would laugh because it was just so different from what everybody else did. Yeah, and I, didn't understand what I needed to do differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now knowing that you're autistic and, you know, being in your 60s, how do you perceive or maneuver with relationships and friendships and things of that nature?
Yeah. Well, for one thing, I'm finding that more and more people are coming out as autistic. You know. Yeah, and so I don't feel so alone anymore. You know,
Mhm.
so in fact, I mean, people that I've dated, as of recently, have come out as
Mhm.
autistic. Or
Okay.
started realizing, just the thinking about, just the ways that they perceive the world, and how their brains work. And so that's been really, really good. I mean, I haven't felt like I should say I haven't felt very much or very often that I've had to explain to people or take a lot of time explaining, why I, quote unquote, act the way I do, you know. Yeah. But I don't normally word it like that because it just sounds like there's so much judgment
It
behind
does.
that.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, I see it as I'm just who I am,
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
So like, and I'm sure people are probably like, you be doing some weird stuff. But to me, that's me, right? And to my
Right.
them. And then there's people are just different. So that's how I view it and approach it. So I think this generation of individuals is becoming more accepting is my hope.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've definitely been noticing is that well and also there's seem to be way more resources today. And I guess that's on one hand I think that's great, but on the other hand is kind of another reason for me to feel, bitter and, like I missed out, because there were definitely no resources, back in the day. I mean, even like 10 years ago, in the workplace, it never would have occurred to me to ask for accommodations because I just was not self-aware at all. I was still in the place where I was wondering, why do I act this way? And it was really common in the workplace for managers or co-workers, or co-workers, to ask me, why did you say that, or why did you do this? And all I could say is, well, it made perfect sense to me at the time, so.
And you segue right into that because I do want to shift to talking about some of that workplace, especially knowing that, I mean, even now we're better, but it's still hard I think there's more awareness around accommodations. But like you were saying, 10 years ago, nobody was going to because I was working in corporate 10 years ago, and I definitely wasn't asking for accommodations.
Right.
And now seeing that. So how were you navigating that? Because at the time you didn't know you were autistic, but you were constantly, I guess, judged about your behavior and your decision making.
Yeah.
How did that impact you in the workplace?
Not well, not well at all, because there were a lot of people who really didn't like me. I mean, managers and co-workers, because they just didn't get me. And it was during that time, I mean, I'm sure that there are still some people today who see any differences, like being just neurodivergent, period, as bad or wrong, you know. And so because I didn't fit in with everybody else, people usually didn't invite me out to lunch or, just different activities, or if I would go to a work activity, say if we, if the whole department, went out for dinner or for lunch, I'd be allowed to go with them, but, I'm sure they would have preferred that I not go with them. But
and you could probably still feel that tension and feel the lack of you wanting to be there and things like that.
Right. I'm feeling totally ignored. I mean, they'd be, talking with each other and, just having these really, really lively animated discussions, and, but at the same time acting like I wasn't there, but just tolerating me. That was basically how it felt. And there were some other things that would go on too, like, and this was more than 10 years ago, but I remember that the place that I was working, they started trying this a new thing where, I mean, they still had managers, but everybody would be part of a team. And so we would have these team meetings, and oh gosh, I hated that. I just hated it so much. I mean, first of all, I had plenty of work that needed to be done.
Yes.
And I thought that these meetings were a waste of time. And then also because, I'm not only autistic, but, I have social anxiety, so I never felt comfortable, Yeah. And so, let's see. Oh, yeah. And I also wanted to mention too, talking about people seeing me as different and seeing my differences as bad. More than once, and this has happened at more than one job, where somebody would be talking to my manager and they wouldn't realize that I'd be able to hear what they were saying. But and what I would hear them saying is something like, I just don't understand Gloria. I don't really understand how she works or how she thinks, or I just don't know what to make of her.
How did all of that impact your sense of self? Because you're hearing it in childhood, you're hearing it in mid-age, and then here we are, still. So how does that impact your sense of self, especially then getting your diagnosis, in your 60s?
Right. Well, it just, made me feel different from everybody else. And not just different, but defective. Like, why can't I be like everybody else? I mean, why is this so difficult? I don't get it. Yeah.
I dealt with that a lot in the corporate landscape before getting my diagnosis. I would be like, I don't understand why I just can't do this. Like, why can't I just get it done? Like, what is the roadblock,
Right.
And so that would always be like, why? I know I'm intelligent. I know I'm supposed to be, but why can't I just do it? Right. And then in getting my diagnosis at 37, I started to give myself a little bit of a grace there. And it's still difficult even now, because sometimes I will be like, I don't understand why I can't do it. And I have to constantly remind myself I'm holding myself to unrealistic standards and do that self-work. But yeah, it's a difficult thing especially when you don't know that you are neurodivergent and you're constantly trying to hold yourself to a scale that is impossible for you to meet, because society isn't built for those of us who are neurodivergent or those of us who have a disability.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like somehow it's up to us to figure out how we're supposed to navigate the world, basically, and how we're supposed to act.
Yeah. You are also writing a memoir with a title that reclaims every part of your identity. What has it meant to claim all those labels on your terms?
Oh my gosh. Well, for one thing, it just felt really good to be able to just be open about who I am, without apologies, and that's just felt so powerful for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. When is it coming out, and when can we get it?
Oh boy. My hope is that by December 2026, which would be perfect, because that'll be my 70th birthday.
Okay.
Yeah. And what would also be perfect, and and I'm also kind of hoping for this, is if it came out in May of next year, because that was when I received my diagnosis, and it was in 2019. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so that would also be great.
We'll be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, definitely.
As we wrap up, I have one final question for you. Um, and this is for those late diagnosed individuals, those elders that we respect but don't quite hear too much from sometimes. What
Mm.
message do you have for those Black autistic elders who are diagnosed late in life, who are still working on feeling that belonging?
Yeah. Uh, I would say that today I'm noticing that there is so many more resources than
Hmm.
what we had in the past.
Yeah.
Yes, and there's also different discussion groups and support groups, and I would recommend that they look to a group like I know that it stands for AANE, but I can't remember
Hmm.
what exactly it.
The Autistic Self Advocacy Network. Is that one? Or I have to look. If I'm
Mm.
saying it wrong, please forgive me, y'all. I'll make sure I have it right in the show notes.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that this that particular organization has discussion groups and support groups for all ages.
Mm-hmm.
For people over 50 and you know yeah, so I would just recommend that they look to groups like that, and to find their community. And that's really the most important thing that I can think of, is having that community, because
Yes.
otherwise I just felt so alone and just so
Mm-hmm.
alienated from everybody.
Yes, community is the foundation of Autism in Black, so I can understand that. Miss Gloria, thank you so much for being here. Where can the people find you, connect with you? Are you on any socials? Do you have a
Yes,
website?
yes. You can email me at notgloriajean at gmail.com. And
Okay.
really quick, the reason why I called it that is because my username on some platforms is Gloria JN. And a lot of times people would think that was short for Gloria Jean. So they, say hi to me, say, hey, Gloria Jean. And I'd always have to say, no, I'm not Gloria Jean. So, but yes, that's one of the places you can find me. It's through my email, and then on Facebook and Instagram, my username is Gloria Jackson-Nefertiti. It's just one word, and there's no hyphen in there.
Okay.
You know.
We'll have all of that in the show notes for you all to connect with Miss Gloria. Miss Gloria, thank you again for being transparent, for being vulnerable, and sharing yourself with our audience. Thank you for that.
Oh, you bet, and thanks so much for inviting me. This has been great.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. And we will catch you on the next episode.